And I noticed 4 ways that they give themselves a huge unfair advantage over everyone else. So debt can be bad or debt can be good. It all depends how you use it. Why wealthy people do everything they can to pay less taxes. They pay top dollar to hire the best tax advisors. Education is one of the biggest predictors of success in life, and so they want their children to get the best education possible. Structure notes can give you upside exposure to assets like stocks while also protecting up to your 100% of your capital from losses. How are the rich so much richer than you? Is it because they are better than you? Or is it some sort of secret they know that you don't? Well, no, actually there's not one secret, there's 4. Hi, I'm Khalid Shamim and a wealth manager for expats living in the GCC. But back in 2011, I actually worked in an exclusive private boutique Swiss bank, and as you probably know, Switzerland is home to many of the most exclusive private banks in the world, catering to many of the richest people in the world. During my time working in Switzerland, I learned a lot about the attitude that world's wealthiest people have towards money. And I noticed 4 ways that they give themselves a huge unfair advantage over everyone else. So stick around, because in this video, I'm going to reveal what these 4 things are and how you can start using them yourself today. Yes, the first unfair advantage that wealthy people give themselves is that they know how to use debt. To many people, debt is a dirty word. Debt is bad because it can bankrupt you, or at least you will probably get ripped off with massive interest payments. And for many people, that's true. Debt really is bad. I'm talking about the kind of people who use credit cards to buy things that they don't afford, like flashy cars and designer handbags, trying to show off and themselves look richer than they really are. But wealthy people use debt differently. For the most part, they don't borrow money to buy depreciating assets that go down in value, like a new Mercedes. They borrow money to buy appreciating assets that go up in value, like businesses and property. That's a smart use of debt. Rather than using debt to make themselves poorer, they use it to make themselves richer. Rich people also have a lot of assets they can put up as collateral, so they can borrow money very cheaply. Often they can borrow money cheap and use that debt to make more money than the interest costs them. Here's an example. Imagine for a moment that you have $10 million worth of property, which brings in 6% returns every year. So $600,000 in rent. And one day you find a great business that you love. Let's say it's a cutting-edge biotech startup with solid fundamentals and huge potential. So you decide you want to invest $1 million into this promising venture. Now, should you sell $1 million worth of your properties to get the cash to invest into this business? You could, but then you would then be losing out on the $60,000 you make from the 6% annual returns on that $1 million worth of property. Instead, why not keep all your property and use some of it as a collateral to borrow $1 million very cheaply? You will get a low interest rate because the bank is very confident of being paid back. Let's say they give you an interest rate of 5%. So to borrow $1 million, you are paying $50,000 a year. So you're losing $50,000 a year to interest payments. But because you didn't use your own money, you're also not losing out on $60,000 in rent from your properties. That means by using debt, you have already saved yourself $10,000 every year to make this investment into this business. And even though you borrowed the money to invest into the business, you still have full control of your investment. You get all the returns that your investment can bring in, which could be 10% a year, 20%, or potentially much more. Who knows? That's how wealthy people use debt to buy more assets and make themselves even richer. And if you have enough assets, to use as collateral, there's nothing stopping you from copying that. So debt can be bad or debt can be good. It all depends how you use it. Everybody hates taxes, right? But you probably don't hate them as much as you should. Let me explain. Let's imagine that you work a job where you earn 100,000 a year before tax. And I don't know where you live, but in this example, you live in a country where you pay an effective 40% income tax. Somewhere like Germany, where they have a high income tax. So after taxes, you are taking home only $60,000 from your 100,000 a year salary. And let's say every year you spend $50,000 on expenses on your family, mortgage, food, and so on. That means you are left with $10,000 every year that you have left over to invest and grow. That's about $833 every month. After 40 years of investing with consistent return of 5% that compound, you'll have a retirement nest egg of $1.27 million. Not bad. But now I want you to guess what your retirement nest egg would be if you have lived in a country with a 20% income tax slab. You have the same $100,000 a year salary, same $50,000 a year expenses for you and your family, but you live in a country with 20% income tax instead of 40%. What do you think you would end up with after 40 years? Take a guess. Got a number? Well, let's have a look. With a 20% tax rate, you would have $80,000 left over after tax. Take away your $50,000 expenses and you are left with $30,000 to invest every year, or $2,000 every month. $3.81 million simply by moving from a country with 40% income tax to 20% income tax. You have tripled your retirement nest egg. Isn't that crazy? Let us just do it one more time. I work as a wealth manager with expats who live in Dubai. And here in the UAE, we have no income tax at all. So with a $100,000 salary, after your $50,000 expenses, every year you have $50,000 left over to invest. That's around $4,166 a month. And after 40 years, you end up with $6.3 million to retire on. Compare that with the $1.27 million nest egg we have had with the 40% income tax. You don't earn any more money, you don't spend less on your family. Apart from the tax rate, everything else is the same, but you end up with 5 times the amount of wealth. And that just from taking into account income tax. That's without even getting into capital gain tax, which you would have to pay on the gains you make from your investments. Countries that have higher income tax generally have higher capital gains tax too. So you would be even worse off than in these examples here. So you can see now why wealthy people do everything they can to pay less taxes. They pay top dollar to hire the best tax advisors, trying to find new deductions and loopholes they can use to reduce their tax burdens. They don't mind spending the money because they know that those top tax professionals will more than pay for themselves in money saved. Wealthy people go the extra mile that most people never bother with. So if you're a big earner and you're not using a tax specialist, you might be paying more tax than you have to. And those unnecessary tax losses are compounding every year. One thing that wealthy people put a huge emphasis on is building intergenerational wealth. And a big part of this is doing everything possible to set up their children up for success. Back when I worked in Switzerland, I remember one wealthy banking client had a special request for me. They asked me if I could help their 13-year-old daughter land a place at the prestigious Institut des Roses. Now, if you don't know about what Institut des Roses is, it's a school in Switzerland that's sometimes called the School of Kings, because it has many alumni who are royalty. King Juan Carlos I of Spain, King Albert II of Belgium, King Fuad II of Egypt, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Anyway, This client really wanted me to help get their daughter a place. And so they were incredibly grateful when I leveraged my connections to meet with Les Roses board members and get her in. By the way, this school is also known as one of the most expensive schools in the world, costing over $350,000 per year. But that just goes to show the incredibly serious the rich are when it comes to educating their children. Education is one of the biggest predictors of success in life, and so they want their children to get the best education possible. And not only that, they also want them to start building a quality network of friends and acquaintances. As the quote goes, it's not about what you know, but who you know. Wealthy people know that the connections their children make at these expensive private schools can pay off throughout their entire lives. It can lead to job opportunities, business deals, and investment opportunities that people outside these circles would never get. And speaking of investment opportunities, yes, wealthy people have access to a whole world of investment opportunities that regular people never even have heard about. I remember a few clients of mine talking about investing in Twitter before it was ever listed publicly on the stock market. They acquired stakes in the company during its early growth stage, and obviously Twitter ended up being very successful, so they made out like bandits. However, while investing into companies at these early stages can be incredibly lucrative, it's also pretty risky. It can take a long time to pay off, and companies never make it to an IPO or anything like that. But often, these angel investors don't mind betting on 9 dots as long as they eventually get one big winner. I think that is one of the biggest differences between ultra wealthy people and regular people when it comes to money. They are not looking to make or lose a fortune overnight on some hot stock tips. They are not interested in getting rich quick. It's all about getting rich slowly. That's why they have mainly concerned while protecting their assets against market volatility and inflation. And that's why probably why my Swiss clients love to invest in things like structured notes. If you have not heard about of them before, structured notes can give you upside exposure to assets like stocks while also protecting up to your 100% of your capital from losses. That means even if the market crashes, your money is safe. So that's perfect for investors who think long term, just like the ultra wealthy people do. They don't mind getting slightly lower returns as long as their money stays safe. Structured notes used to be one of those unfair advantages that were only available to the super rich. You needed an absolute minimum of $1 million to invest in one. So only institutional investors and wealthiest retail investors could access them. But in recent years, things have changed. Thanks to improvements in technology, people like you and me can access structured notes too. So if you would like to learn more about them, click this link in the description. You'll be able to get a free report I wrote that tells you everything you need to know before even considering investing in a structured note. Because frankly, they are not for everyone. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching this video about the 4 unfair advantages that the wealthy have. If you learned something useful, be sure to click the subscribe button. I have been your host, Khalid Shamim, and I'll see you next time. Take care.